Welcome back, guys, on my YouTube channel. I just came back from Dakar and I'm immediately putting myself on rally builds and adventure bike builds. Got lots of stuff to do. But anyway, with no further ado, I'm here for the tutorial on how to install the Rebel X Sports rally kit on the standard 701. Here on the channel you have also the 690 tutorial, the 701 LR. All the frames are the same, the engines are the same, but I thought since I have this opportunity to do even for the standard bike, so I can then show you how to fix the side panels. Here are most of the parts that are included in the kit, but if you want to know the specific one, go on the Rebel X Sports website on the product page or in the other tutorial videos, because today I don't want to lose time and I want to make a really quick explanation to make your life easier. Okay, first thing that we'll need to do will be to remove the headlight mask. This is pretty easy. You just get a T30 Torx and start removing the headlight. Now, once you remove the headlight, you remove this cable, the ABS and brake cable, and then you take off this connector. Disconnect. Now the fun starts, because you need to lose a bit of time and start cutting all the zip ties, because we'll have to loosen all the connectors and the wires. Just be careful not to cut the wire and just the zip tie. Once you've taken out all the zip ties, we start disconnecting all the connectors, because we'll have to remove this black plastic part, and it makes it simpler if we start disconnecting everything. Something you can do now or later is to remove the turn indicators, since on the Rebel X Sports nav tower we have the holes to put the OEM indicators. I'll do it now just to have less wires hanging around. A quick tip before you disconnect the turn indicators: you see they have a green and red label. This is to know which is left or right, but you'll never remember which is left or right based only on the color. So get just a marker, and I'll put an L on the one that's left and an R on the one that's right. Once you've disconnected everything and separated the wires to know which comes from the left, which goes on the handlebar and so on, we're gonna remove these two bolts that hold in place this plastic that we'll need then to cut in order to make especially the front brake cable come out. Now that you took out all the connectors and cables, you see you have practically only these two wires and then these that we'll need to disconnect from under the seat. But first thing, we want to make this come out. So we'll cut here. You'll need some, big cutters in order to cut. Try and do a straight line in this way. If you'll want to reconvert the bike, you'll be able to use again this plastic if you cut it properly. Yeah, so if you need to sell the bike, no one will notice. We'll do the same here on top, but try and cut here on the side so that you can then put back the indicators on. Now that we're almost ready to remove the black plastic, we'll need to remove this bolt and disconnect two connectors that are under here. Now I'll show you. You open here the plastic flap, then we'll remove the bolt also on the other side, because we'll put the U-bolt around to put the frame clamp, so no need then to put it back on. You disconnect, you have these two connectors, you'll disconnect them. Pull the two connectors out. Now we are ready to remove completely the black plastic. You won't need to remove the USB port, because in the kit 2 USB ports with a voltmeter is included, so we'll then plug the new USB ports directly back in. We'll need instead to remove the OEM dashboard, remove these 2 bolts here, and then place them on the Rebel X nav tower bracket. Once you remove the dashboard, keep the bolts and remove the 2 rubber grommets. For now, I'll place them back here on the dashboard so I don't lose them. Same with the bolts, I'll just hand tighten them so I have them all in the right place. Now it's time to install the frame clamp. So one thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull out all the wires so that I have a clean space where to work properly. You want to remove also this bolt because we'll then slide through the U-bolt. One of the reasons why I decided to do also this tutorial is because many of you ask if the kit fits with the Raid Garage tank or with the toolbox they make, and yes, and in this video you'll see it fits no problem. One small thing I like to do when I put the frame clamp, since it's aluminium against the frame, I have this soft transparent tape. I'll cut about 11.5 centimeters, put it here so it just further protects. This is not necessary, but it's just a little tip. This obviously is not included, it's something I add myself. Now it's time to add the frame clamp, which will be sitting somewhere here, and slide in the U-bolt around the frame. Once you've placed the U-bolt, get your frame clamp, make it go through the U-bolt, and then we'll place the washer and self-locking nut. Once you tighten the U-bolt, try to tighten it evenly, leaving the same amount of thread on both sides. So do first a bit one side, then the other. And then one thing you might probably want to do, at least I do it here on the builds, then once I've tightened it, not completely tight, I mark on the right hand side, I mark with a marker the thread, because I then cut this thread because the cables will go through here. It's not necessary, I did many builds without cutting it, but since I have time to build this bike and I'm not in a rush, I'll measure it, mark it, cut it, and it will just look neater. For the purpose of the tutorial, I won't cut it now, but I'll show you the next step, which is to place these clamps. These are just to secure. They don't intend to pull the frame clamp. These are so that in case of crash, the tower should move a bit, but to a certain extent, because then these will block it, so that at least if it's not completely rigid and it can slightly move, the thing is that you won't have such a big damage because it will absorb a bit the impact. And yeah, especially even for the fairing and side panel, we've seen from testing it was better to give it a slight range of movement in case of crash. So this is only to secure that your tower doesn't end here. On these clamps, you may want to put some Loctite just so that in case you don't lose them. The tower kit comes completely pre-assembled, but in this case I removed the upper part and the bracket for the dashboard and the Erie track bracket or tool back bracket, because anyway you'll need to do this in order to run properly the cables and everything. So we're ready for the next step. Now I'll place the tower on the clamp. Once you place the tower on the frame clamp, if you had cut the U-bolt, then you can do this process with the tower on and run all these wires and connectors through the hole and remove the left-hand side. If you want to keep the U-bolt as it is, you'll do this process before bolting it on. Okay, now I've cut the U-bolt so that I managed to slide in all the connectors and all the cables. Once you've put everything in, I decided to remove the side of the tower. Now I'll fix all these connectors properly and then put the other side of the tower. But before doing so, you better plug in power cable that then goes to the fuse box that has written ACC2, and we're gonna obviously plug it in on the two connectors with written ACC2. There's also an ACC1. ACC1 is continuous power. It means even when the bike is turned off, you always have power coming out. Whereas ACC2 is only when the bike is turned on. Furthermore, we are gonna plug in the lights connector, so then when we'll put the headlight, we'll just have to plug it in the lights. Now that I plugged in the wires, one thing you'll do is connect all the connectors, but for the purpose of the video, to be quick, I will do this at a later stage. You fix everything with the zip ties so that's nice and neat. Be sure to remember to keep these quite accessible. These are the turn indicators connectors where we wrote left and right. You want the power cable, this will go to the fuse box, so you'll have it also coming out here. These are the LED of the indicators near the dashboard, so these will go here in front. But with no further ado, let's put on the other side of the tower and continue the build. The really cool feature of this tower are these spacers, because being threaded, it means you can work with only one side of the tower, and even if by any chance you break something and you need to access the wires, you'll just need to take off one side and leave everything on, so very easy to work on, especially during races. In the next step, once you install the other side of the tower, you have two options. You can either put the E-Retract tool bag bracket so that you keep all the wires out of the way, or in this case, what I prefer is to leave everything open. So I'll put also the headlight, and then I'll fix and have all the space to fix properly all the wires and put this for last. Now that we go install this C bracket, you have two holes for the turn indicator. If you want to, you can install it first, and I advise it makes it much easier to place them on. Once the C brackets are installed, we are gonna put the windshield bracket on with these M5 416 millimeter bolts. These tighten them only by hand. We'll tighten them tight only after we place the headlight. Time now to fix the street legal headlight. Here we have a position light, low beam and high beam, all street legal with homologation papers. But depending on which country you are, there's also the option to have two Baja design, or what most people in Europe do is they keep the low beam, the Hella one, and put the Baja design S1 as the high beam, because anyway you use it only at night and where you really need to, and it makes a really good light. First thing, when placing the headlight, you want to have the cable of the position light go here through the headlight bracket, and then you slide it in. Start putting the lower bolt, just tighten it by hand. Then we'll place the upper bolts, and before tightening everything, this headlight can slide up and down and it can tilt. So depending, you know, also on your setup on the bike, because if you have a really soft suspension on the rear, you'll want the headlight to be more pointing towards the front. If you have a stiff suspension, or you know the front end is pretty low, you'll probably tilt it the other way around. If this tilt angle is not enough, you can further adjust it by placing some washers behind one of the lights, and in this way you can further tilt it downwards, or if you put the washers on the bottom, further tilt it up. After I tighten a bit so that everything stays in position, the headlight bolts, and I can still move it a bit up and down, then I'm ready to tighten the two bolts of the windshield bracket. You'll use it like this and just go under. Now we're ready to place the indicators, and then if we need also the on-off switches. Take your dashboard bracket, remove the rubber grommets and put the rubber grommets here in the two holes. We're gonna slide through. Be sure to put it the right way around, because sometimes it happens, you put everything on, turn it on, and it's turned upside down. Before placing the two OEM bolts, you'll add these washers. So put one washer and then you can start tightening the OEM bolt. Then we'll slide in the ABS switch and these indicators. Sometimes there can be some excess of powder coating and you want to slightly clean the hole so that it goes right in. If you're running the model from 2021 onwards, or even the KTM 221, this I think is a 222 model, you'll have only 2 indicators, whereas on the previous model you have 3, because you have also the neutral. Now the neutral is integrated in the dashboard, but on the bracket we have 3 holes. So you've got this together with the bolts. This is not a small butt plug, but it's so that we can cancel this hole. Just put it in and looks nice and neat. Now that we're ready to put the dashboard bracket on, what you'll want to do, you'll want to be sure that these cables are connected and go under this bracket. I'll do it later so I can manage to make the tutorial video for you. And you'll get like these are the LED indicators. You can see then on this wire where the connector is, it says what it is, if it's the flasher of the turn indicators or if it's the oil. Here it says it's flasher, so I'll push it in the flasher indicator, do the same with the oil one, and plug in these connectors so that then I can place it in the tower. Now you have this bracket, which is the adventure version bracket. The rally version just has the roadbook bracket. Here you can place either 2 RAM mounts, 1 Garmin and 1 RAM mount. It's very versatile. So we place this inside the tower. We do this always before tightening the spacers, because once we tighten the spacers, everything will be blocked in together. Now, before putting the track bracket, you'll want to connect the power to the fuse box, and this, which is the ground, you'll place it on the tower. You have many places where to put. Usually, just to make it look neat, I put it on this lower hole. I just put the bolt through. You can do it externally, but it doesn't look so nice. So I make this go behind the track bracket, go inside here, and the ground, you can place it anywhere on the tower, but usually this is the whole thought for the ground, because in this way, if you place it from inside, you'll manage to put all the grounds of all the instruments here, put a bolt through, and it will be easy. Now let's plug in the turn indicators. Remember when I told you to mark left and right? This will make it much easier. So I have here the right, plug it in. One important thing for the wires, the turn indicators wires, you want them then to sit up here, pull them up, and then you can fix them with some zip ties. Let's imagine we live in a perfect world where all the connectors connected themselves, you know, during the night, and everything is nice and tidy. We put then the track bracket, but before putting the track bracket, be sure you tighten the whole tower, because it will have to squeeze together in order to fix this bracket. Once you have all in place, you want to plug in the lights wiring harness. But what I do is usually I make it go around, because it's pretty long, but here on the bottom of the C brackets you have holes so that you can fix them with zip ties and everything becomes clean and you don't see wires going anywhere around, because I hate seeing wires around on the bike. Now we'll unify the air scoop with the windshield. Here you have some nice Rebel stickers. They're included. We get these rubber inserts with a thread. Then we get our windshield, put it on top, get these M5x17 Torx OEM bolts, and we'll put them through. One important thing, you'll have to push a bit the rubber insert in order for it to catch the thread. Get your Torx T30, put it in the bolt, press the insert, pushing it up, and with the Torx you press down and start tightening. To know how much to tighten it, it's easy, just make it go flush. You see the bolt is now reached the end, so no need to tighten it more. In all the bolts you have also this cable guide. This cable guide will soon be available also for purchase. If you just want the cable guide, you put it here in this position. You check when you turn that before you put the zip ties that it should be right next to the tower and not touching. Important thing, there is no need to adjust the steering angle from OEM, from how the bike is delivered, because you can see it doesn't touch the tower. Now time for the windshield to go back on. When you put the windshield, you need to first place the pins in the rubber. So we slightly press here on the sides, goes on, and then you can put the D-Zeus mounts. Bike is almost complete. We are left only with the side panels, which are very easy to install. First, we'll place the D-Zeus mount here on the air scoop. You see that the hole is slotted, so depending then on also when you place the side panel, before doing the hole, you can adjust, bring it backward and forwards depending on how everything fits. Because this being mounted on this air scoop, which is in plastic, and the windshield being unified with the rubber threads, everything is very flexible, so there can be tolerance. And when you now put the side panels, you want to adjust so that everything looks nice and neat. Now you're ready to fit your side panels. These come in white, but you can ask to have them in black. It's very straightforward because you see this lip goes under the plastic, and you have these two like nipples that go here where you have the bolts. Put it in position. Now we will drill two small holes, 2-3mm holes, so that we can put the two rivets and it will be riveted on. And then here we do another hole where we'll put a bolt. So this is nice in position. And after we place the side panels on the bike, then we'll adjust here to drill the hole for the D-Zeus fastener. Put everything nice and flush in position. Obviously be careful not to drill the radiator. Just drill a hole here. This is one of the options. If you wanted, you could drill a bigger hole and put the bolts in where you have the bolts, because on the left-hand side of the bike, you have the possibility to have a little toolbox behind the radiator shroud. So in that case, you'll want to either put the rivet and drill two big holes so you can remove the bolts, or you can directly drill them there. But I prefer this. I believe this is a better solution. Once I place the first rivet, then this is nice and firm, and I can drill the second hole and put the second rivet. I'll do it here in the lower section. Here I drilled a 5mm hole just right for an M5 bolt, but you can place whatever you want, because in this way everything will be nice and firm. I'll use the key to push it in, and just it keeps everything in place, and then I'll put a washer and a nut behind. Once all is in place, I'm ready to drill my hole to then put the D-Zeus fastener. Now, before doing this, as I told you before, this flexes, so I try to check and I do a hole with the, since I did before a 3mm hole, I'll do again first a 3mm hole to check the alignment, just to be sure everything is perfect, and then 7mm hole so that then everything just goes through. I now check the alignment because all the rubbers are new, everything is new. I'll need to push it slightly forward. Now I'll do the hole slightly towards the back because I saw that it's a bit too forward, and then we're ready to put the Desus fastener. Okay guys, the bike build is complete. Obviously now you see it also with a bit of more bling on it. Then if you want to discover what these balls are for, I'll tell you in the next video. But yeah, now you saw how easy it is to install the plug-and-play rally kit from Rebel X Sports. Be sure to subscribe, to follow my Instagram, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!